Okay, looks like I am live. Well, this is a little bit different interface for me, so that was weird. Not sure if anybody else is actually going to join me. I have sent out several invites. Oh, which reminds me, I do need to send out. Give me a second here. There was one person I forgot to tag on this. So give me a second. So the name of this may not be all that obvious because I'm calling this particular stream C.A.R.D Monte. And it's an acronym that I'm planning on using. It not only is it going to help me keep track of the 4 topics that I wanted to talk about today, or at least in this stream, but it's also kind of this. I'm not sure if you know what a 3 card Monte is. It's the game where there is a queen and then 2 random other cards. That usually this is how the game is played. There's a queen of hearts and possibly the queen of spades and the queen of clubs, or just 2 other cards. The other 2 cards don't matter. But the point of the game is to identify which of the 3 cards is the queen of hearts. So all 3 are shown at the beginning of the game. All 3 cards are face down, so all you see is the backs of them, and then the dealer, or the person running this particular game, then starts shuffling the cards, and your goal as the player is to identify, after he's done shuffling, which card of those 3 remaining, or of the 3 on the table, is the queen of hearts. Now usually there's some trickery involved, and none of the 3 cards is actually the queen of hearts by the time he's done shuffling. He's shuffling and moving his hands and has thrown another card on the table and has taken the queen of hearts out of play. So even if you flip up all 3 cards, you're not going to find the queen of hearts. That's usually how it's played. That's the trickery involved. So one of the major stories that I'm going to be talking about, I see that level of deception where something occurred and then they started shuffling things around and distracting us with this and distracting us with this and distracting us with this, so people actually lost sight of the actual thing that they should be focusing on. The thing that everybody should be crying out, or everybody should be thinking about or talking about right now, is getting overshadowed because they're playing the shell game. So shell game's another name for the 3 card Monte, and that's this entire weekend has been filled with that sort of thing. Is look over here, look over here. Wait, no, look over here, look over here. No, wait, no, look over. And by the time your focus is switching so many different times, you lose the central thing you should be focusing on. So give me a second. So hopefully that typing isn't out here. Man, I cannot type right now. And just respell that word 3 times because I'm like, wait, that's not how you spell it. All right, so sent off that email. Hopefully he gets it, but hopefully people start showing up. I'm not sure. Now I'm not sure if this link is. It should be the link to actually join me on the stream, right? Right. Maybe I'll get people to show up. Maybe I won't. I'm not sure. But we will see. Okay. So the C in 3 card Monte is obviously the Covington story. This was huge over the weekend. Everybody's been talking about this incident. There's been videos upon videos. Not only the videos released of the incident itself. There's an interview with the kid who was involved in this, and there have been hours of coverage over this incident so far. And like I said, it's 3 card Monte where they keep shuffling things around and keep diverting your attention to one thing or the other, and people lost sight of what was actually going on. Now, the original story that was presented was that this Native American guy, Nathan Phillips, was doing a peaceful protest of something. I have no idea. Some Native American march or something like that. Although, so there's 3 things that actually were converging on that particular day. So there was the Women's March, the March for Life, and then whatever this Native American thing, which I don't know if that's an ongoing tradition or if it was something that was incorporated. Because I mean, all these events were happening over the weekend. and so the Women's March was the first thing and whatever, and then the March for Life. Actually, March for Life has been going on for a while. I don't know if they combined it onto one weekend because the March for Life was a counter protest to the Women's March, or if it was the other way around, like the Women's March is a counter protest of the March for Life. I'm not certain on the which came first, the chicken or the egg in that particular situation. Although I haven't been able to find any details about this Nathan Phillips guy and what he was actually doing there. What his Because they keep talking about this Native Americans or the indigenous people or whatever. They're depending on which source you go with, they use a different term for his march. So the original narrative was that he was doing a peaceful protest march, and then a group of Catholic school kids started surrounding him and bullying him and blocking his path and making it so that way he couldn't continue his march. Now, the full video came out and showed what actually happened is students were already standing there on the Lincoln Memorial steps. They had been told there to wait for, or they'd been told to meet up there because that's where the buses were going to arrive to take them back. They're there as part of a school field trip. The school does this every year as part of the March for Life. They take their students up there. It's not quite technically a field trip, but it's something the school does annually. Because I guess technically, I guess it is a field trip because it is through the school and school buses and things along those lines. But usually, when you have a field trip, it's hang on a second, I got it updated from somebody. I would have to clarify to Dark Consequence on stream. Okay. Yeah. So I guess one person is not going to join me today. Oh well. But everybody else, I don't know, is either ignoring it or is busy. Oh well, I guess I'll just do this by myself for the time being. So sorry. Yeah. Back to what I was talking about. It apparently. So it was through the school. There was using the school buses, and this is an annual event. They go down there for the March for Lives. And after the March for Lives, whatever, they tour DC. They visit all the sites and whatever, and then after hours of hey, you're on your own, go tour, do whatever, they all meet back up at a centralized location. The buses come and pick them up, and they go back to the school. That seems, if you've been on any kind of trip with a group along that. Yeah, sorry, distracted. So the other messages from another person about apparently I've become a pariah in the group that I had talked about last week. So apparently my views of what is actually scientifically based and logically deduced, that makes me a terrible person according to that other group, and then associating with me would make somebody else a terrible person. Whatever. You do what you feel is right, but anybody who wouldn't want to associate with me because somebody else's opinion, what you should really be thinking about is why do they hold that opinion, and if they hold that opinion about someone who, I have no animosity towards the group I talked about. So I guess I should specify. I have no animosity towards the LGBT group as a whole. I think they are terribly misguided on what they advocate for, but I hold no animosity towards them. I do hold a high amount of animosity towards the people who are now calling themselves MAPs or minor attractive persons. There's a huge animosity towards that particular group. But, and like I was saying, I don't think you can separate that mentality and those people's agenda, like those people being the MAPs. You cannot separate their agenda from the LGBT agenda. The distinction isn't clear enough for you to make those two groups separate because of what the LGBT community advocates for. Everything they advocate for would lead you to logically deduce that they should be advocating on behalf of these MAPs. Because what the LGBT community advocates for is be true to yourself. Right? And ignore social norms, be true to yourself, give in to your sexual desires and to your whatever those sorts of things. That's the message. That is a message that would resonate with someone who is a pedophile or who is a MAP. And they'd be like, hey, they're talking about me. They're saying it's okay to be me. That's you cannot separate that. There's nothing inside the core mantra of what people in the LGBT community advocate, especially when they are advocating their particular lifestyles with with children. When they hear about a 6-year-old becoming transgender and starting and going on puberty blockers, they celebrate. When they hear about a kid who is 11 years old and is a drag queen, they celebrate. They're like, "Hey, this is great. This is a great step forward for our movement." They want younger people to be involved in their movement. When they hold events where drag queens and transvestites and transgender people do story time reading in front of 4 and 5-year-olds. There are books being written about like My Two Dads, My Two Moms. It's those aren't the actual names of the stories, but what was that? There was in Canada, there was a pamphlet produced where it was like a unicorn talking about gender, that how there's more than two genders, and there's a whole bunch of different types of genders, and unicorn gender and it is aimed at kids because this is not aimed at kids this is not aimed at 13 and 14-year-olds out of here. This is aimed at 6 and under. You don't use a cartoon unicorn to advertise to teenagers or preteens. Those are the types of things that they're trying to indoctrinate younger kids with. And you're like, okay, so the LGBT community doesn't see how that could possibly attract more people who would be pedophiles. And like, hey, you're paving the way for them. You are doing all the hard work. You're making all of the arguments. You like everything that you are advocating for and everything you are arguing for is exactly what they're looking for. Exactly what pedophiles are looking for. You're taking out all of their obstacles, and anybody who would agree with your positions and your arguments would have to side with the pedophiles. That's the argument I'm making for. I don't hold any animosity towards somebody who is trans. I don't hold any animosity towards somebody who is gay or somebody who's bisexual or somebody who's a lesbian. I don't like that lifestyle. I think it's ultimately harmful to the people who participate in it. I think it is detrimental to their well-being, which is why I advocate against those activities. But if somebody is engaged in those, if somebody is one of those categories, I treat them like a normal person, just like I would anybody else. That's there. That's why the distinction. Anytime you say something like, "Hey, that's not a good way to live," people are like, "Oh, you're dehumanizing," and so that kind of hate speech or whatever leads to death and advocating their murder. I'm like, no, that's what I don't or I can't wrap my head around, or I haven't heard any good reasoning or argument as to saying that's not a good way to live your life. How that suddenly turns into, oh, that person needs to die. That's a huge leap that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because you know what else I advocate against? I advocate against having sex before you're married. Does that mean that I think everybody who has sex before they are married should die? No one has ever accused me of making that argument. But when I say something about I don't think it's a good thing to advocate that children who haven't hit puberty yet should be on puberty blockers and should be starting transitioning, and that parents should be treated as that should be you know should have those children taken away from them and should be actually considered child abusers if they push their children to go on to hormone blockers and all that sort of thing. If they push their children into becoming drag queens and all that sort of thing, I think those parents are participating in child abuse at that point. Now, does that mean that I want anybody in that situation to die, or I would be okay if a lynch mob came in and broke down their house? And no, that those two concepts are completely different, and yet for some reason the uh, stupid people will take an art, I say, hey, that's not a good way to live, and will some like, oh, well, that's hate speech, and that's what leads to these people getting killed. I'm like, in what world? In what world does saying that's not a good lifestyle, you should try to be a better person, and you should actually avoid something like that if you think it's going to be detrimental to your well-being? Okay, there's a lot of things that I advocate against. I so I don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't have premarital sex. I advocate that anybody else who is wanting to live a good life and is wanting to be a better person, they do the same. Okay, and that's a terrible thing to do. You know what else I advocate? I advocate don't. Or I also advocate that people do not spend over their means. Although that's kind of one of those areas where I've been a bit of a hypocrite in that regard, because while I do put aside money in savings and I have various investments and things along those lines, or had various investments, I should say. I took a major gamble and a major risk, and I took all of my savings and I liquidated everything and I invested it into a project that I thought was going to take off and was going to go somewhere. And all it would need is just a little bit of. I figured if I did most of the work, if I got it 90% of the way, I'd have other people joining in to get me that last 10%. Well, that last 10% ended up being closer to 30%, but I only got about 0.3% assistance towards that last 30%. So, yeah, I did the majority of the work. I laid the foundation. I did everything I could possibly do on my end, hoping that other people would see it moving forward and would join on at the and that never took off. And so I that big risk, you know, kicked me in the butt. But I still advocate that people don't take risks like me, and most people aren't. They can take such a risk and recover from it. Most people have families. Most people have dependents. So if you're in a situation like I'm still on my own, I don't have any dependents. I don't have it like if I filed for bankruptcy, okay, that's all on me. Nobody else is bearing the burden of my bad choices. If I had a family, if I had dependents right now, there's no way I would have done any of that. I would have been like, okay, here's the idea, pass it off to somebody else. Maybe they can do something with it, which is actually sort of the situation I find myself being required to be in, according to based on that project, which I talked about a little bit last week. All right, I'm getting sidetracked here. This stupid thing with those moronic high schooler kids and people who should know better. Um, so I got started. Yeah, it's completely off topic, not what I want to talk about right now, but apparently it's now blowing up my Discord feed. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'll have to read that later because that's more on the topic. So yeah, sorry. Yeah, my Discord is blowing up right now with messages concerning that particular group, and I'm like, but that particular group is full of idiots. So I'm not sure why you would hold their opinions in high regard or why you would care what they think of you, because they've shown themselves to be absolutely hypocritical. They are not consistent. They have no no standards of morality. Again, we've talked about this several times on my streams with them, where they still insist that morality is subjective. Even people in that group who are supposedly Christian, they talk about morality being subjective, and I'm like, it can't be. There has to be a correct way to act. Or at the very least, there has to be things that are outright avoided. If there is something that is not a good practice for anyone to ever participate in, that act is immoral, thus creating a boundary for objective morality. And I would say murder, like killing somebody without, and so we'll get into that as far. That's going to be my topic number 2, because this is something that is recently in the news. So I guess maybe I'll use this to kind of transition to that. I wanted to talk more about the Covington story, but I guess it's a little more related to the. Dude, I'm all over the place, going off on tangents here. Sorry about that. My mind is a terrible place where I go down rabbit holes and rabbit holes and rabbit holes. That's what but that's digging for the truth. Is you have to follow these logical processes when they come to mind. You're like, oh, hey, there's something. Let's keep going on that until you reach the conclusion. That's how my brain works. That's how you discover the truth. Is you see, okay, here's something that I know to be true. Here's something that I know to be false. Okay, where is the absolute truth? And you're trying to find that as anywhere you can. Um, I've said since I was, a teenager, and I've argued with my brother pretty adamantly about this, is ambiguity is outright intolerable to me. I mean, not yeah. I guess I should say, like, oh, that's the non-binary. Yeah, well, the non-binary it makes absolutely no sense. There should be it's something. You can't define something. It needs a clear distinction. What separates this from other things, so that way people know what I'm talking about. But the non-binary category has no clear distinction. That's a problem for me, because that you can't get to the truth unless you have a clear distinction, unless you have a clear, okay, this is A and this is B. A does not equal B, B does not equal A. That's I mean, if you're talking about the foundation of philosophy, you can't have A and not A and have both of them be equal. And yet that's exactly what the LGBT community keeps arguing for. I'm like I said, I've got no animosity towards the individuals themselves. But the philosophy that they ascribe to is detrimental, and it's kind of tearing this country apart. Now, I think they are misguided. I think they have been lied to. I think they are misled. I think they are misleading other people as long as they keep telling people a lie as if it was the truth. Now, the only way to get to the truth is to actually do research, is to look into these things, find studies on this, which I did, and I posted to those the morons who are currently bashing my character, making ad hominem attacks against me rather than addressing the arguments I'm actually making. The arguments I'm making are based on logic and reasoning and the facts at hand. And the facts at hand point that there is a higher percent of pedophiles within the LGBT community than there are in the population as a whole. That is that should not be the case. All right, that should not be the case mathematically. So it means so what that means is there's something in the ideology of people who are members of the LGBT community that either attracts more pedophiles, or pedophiles are um, or pedophilia is more common amongst people with that mindset. I don't know which is which. I couldn't find a study uh, that would actually confirm one way or the other. There is a strong correlation. Causation, is the causation LGBT community causes pedophilia, or is the causation pedophilia is attracted to the message of LGBT? I don't know. And as far as I can tell right now, there isn't enough research, but all I can tell is there is a much greater propensity for someone in the LGBT community, statistically speaking, to be a pedophile. It is a much greater chance of someone who is LGBT to be a pedophile than it is for somebody in the population as a whole. That that should spell out, hey, there's something not right here. But it just pointing that out is apparently a hate crime, and it means I want to see that community destroyed and all that. No. The goal, and I made several videos talking about this. I broke down each letter. I made a separate video about each letter of the LGBT community, talking about various issues that they face, talking about various problems with the messaging and with the ideology that people in that community have. It is a coming from a place of compassion, because I would like to see them have better lives. I would like to see transgenders not commit suicide at rates higher than slaves and Jewish people during the Holocaust. The idea that a transgender person in the United States has it worse than slaves had it during American slavery, or than the Jews had during the Holocaust under Germany occupation, that's that is it, it's that is absolutely insane, to think that people who are trans in the United States, one of the most lenient countries, one of the most understanding and accepting countries in the world, we are despite what professors and all that would have them believe, the United States is the least racist country in the world. Whatever they say, mega hats or whatever, we'll get into that. So that's the R that I'm going to be talking about. Although 25 minutes in, and I've been doing nothing but rambling and trying to defend my own case from 2 weeks ago, because apparently the opinions of high schoolers and college age kids who don't know their backside from whatever what the facts in front of them, you know, or I guess maybe they don't know their own backside from a hat. That's a better way of stating it. Um, these kids who are going with the flow, and like, so one of those individuals, I talked with my brother last night, and this is something that came up in that conversation, is one of those individuals in particular has been going back and forth, and whatever he thinks is true seems to be based on what the majority of the people in that particular hangout all say. So if the majority of the people are all saying one thing, he's like, oh yeah, and then when the sides flip and the majority of the people all think a different way, well, then his opinion changes based on that. And this is a guy who you care about his opinion when he's bad mouthing me, when he's saying I'm a terrible person. He's saying that I am, speaking hate speech or whatever. I don't know what exactly they're saying because I've muted all of them. I don't care about their opinions. Okay, if they want to talk with me, if they want to hear my side of it, okay. But I have no interest in their opinions because they've proven that they are hypocritical. They've proven that they don't have a clear stance on anything. So either they don't know the facts, they don't know enough about a situation to make a valid opinion upon it, or they know enough and they don't care and they're letting emotions override what their thinking is. Because I know a lot of these people are friends with people who are in the LGBT community, and this is the most absurd thing because I have friends who are part of that group. Okay, I don't participate in their lifestyles. I don't advocate things they advocate, but I'm still able to maintain a friendly relationship with them. They know I disapprove of what they do. Okay, I guess maybe friend is possibly not the word. Maybe I should just say acquaintance because it's not like we hang out on a daily basis. But then again, uh, I have, like I said, so I was talking about one of my friends in the Air Force. He's a good guy. Got married. His wife is out of her mind. I think she seriously caused psychological damage, and now he thinks he's a woman. And like, this is nothing ever like this. So this was a group of friends. Like some of my friends back from them. Uh, some of them are Wiccan, okay, or Wicca. I don't know if there's a difference between Wicca and Wiccan, but I guess Wicca is the religion and Wiccan is someone who practices it. Okay, they can be that. I disagree with that. I would go out and say, hey, like here's all the problems with it. Here's the actual truth and all. Like I can, and we're still able to maintain good friendships. They know I disagree with whatever they believe. Okay, as long as I've made my stance clear, I don't treat them any differently, other than saying, "Hey, I disagree with you, and here's what I think is the truth based on what I've discovered and what I've learned, the information that I have, and I'm sharing it with you. If you don't want to take that information and go with it, okay, I've done my part in making sure that you have at least as much information as I have concerning that issue. If they choose to continue to do what they're doing, fine. It's not my place to change their lives. It's not my place. All I'm here to do is say, hey, here's the truth as I know it. Might be wrong. This may not be the truth, and as new information comes along, I might change my opinion because if the information that I have that I have presented, if the information that I have in front of me is incorrect, show me the correct information. I will change my opinion based on what is the truth. But instead of giving me the truth, instead of giving me facts, instead of giving me details, instead I got people calling me a pedophile who should be investigated by the police. And the rest of that community, or the rest of that, not the LGBT community, the rest of that little group of hive mind, that echo chamber that is currently bad mouthing me, is all agreeing with that. Now, I'm not going to get into personal issues, but someone in my family has had that happen to them, and somebody is in jail because of it. And if he ever gets if I talk about this, I am going to say something that I should not say on a okay. That I'm gonna stop myself. Okay, not talking about this. I'm not gonna make this personal. That would be a disservice to anybody who actually is Not only is it not my story to tell, because I was not a victim or like I had no knowledge of it. I was in a completely other state when this was going on. I have no. Okay, but not I'm appealing to someone's emotions is not the way to talk about these subjects. You have to go based on the facts. Facts don't care about your feelings. It's the Ben Shapiro line that facts do not care about your feelings. Appealing to someone's emotions, which is all I've gotten in response. I've laid out facts. I've talked about this. I've given my reasoning. I've said, okay, here's the case. This is my foundation. These are things that the LGBT community believes. This is things the LGBT community pushes, and here are examples of them pushing it on younger kids. And this is how that relates to the pedophile community and what pedophiles want, and to try to argue against pedophilia, but also support everything that the LGBT community. It's illogical. It's inconsistent. So when those people come at me, it's because they have friends in that community, and they're like, "Oh, that friend isn't like that." I know, but you're talking about anecdotal evidence. You cannot look at, hey, this one person who is a member of this group doesn't support that, therefore the entire group. That's not how statistics work. Statistically, the majority of the LGBT community is behind that drag kid. They're promoting him as a poster child for their movement. That's why he's plastered all over national news. It's because that's what the majority of that community wants and accepts. And so here's something else in the news. Bryan Singer, the director of X-Men, X2, director of Usual Suspects. I did not use ad hominem attacks. Conundrum. If you're gonna, what ad hominem attack did I do? Did I use? Tell me what I did. All right. So I've got somebody in my chat trying to. I'm gonna show your comment. I've got nothing to. If you want to be an idiot, you can be an idiot. Yet you call them pedophiles. Who did I call a pedophile? I did not call anyone a pedophile. Show me where I called somebody a pedophile. Yes, when somebody is acting retarded, I say that they are retarded. Say it to my face. What? Say what to your face? You can join the stream. Here's the link to the stream. You can join. Vent to your heart's delight. If you want to make this the entire subject of this video, there's four things that I haven't really covered. I've scratched the surface on. But anyway, so Bryan Singer, acclaimed director, Hollywood poster child, was having sex orgies at his house, starting as one of the first films in his career, Apt Pupil. That's when the teenagers, they were teenagers at the time, are now coming forward saying that Bryan Singer abused them. And it's not one kid, it's not a couple of kids, or it's not two. It's more than two kids who are accusing him currently of sexual assault on the set of Apt Pupil. Now, this goes along the lines with Elijah Wood coming out against Hollywood. He's saying that the pedophile ring in Hollywood right now is bigger than the Sandusky. No, is that the name Sandusky? There was I'm trying to remember the name because it was a British guy. Man, there's so many pedophile incidents in the United States history. It is. Oh no, Sandusky was the football guy. So what was the name? So since I'm looking up that name, so Elijah Wood was talking about pedophiles. What was the name of it? So this is on an interview in Hollywood or in London. I'm trying to remember the name. Yeah, so Elijah Wood has talked about that being in Hollywood. They're talking about pedophile rings and that sort of thing. Corey Feldman has talked about this. Corey Feldman says that his friend and fellow Corey Haim, committed suicide over this. Corey Feldman blames his drug use and his he says a large part of his decline in his 20s and 30s, a lot of his rampant drug abuse, you know, uh, I guess sexual deviancy, and a whole lot of things was due. Like his life spiraled out of control because of rape incidents when he was young. Like this kid was in the Goonies and stuff like that. He was a childhood star, and he was the victim of these rapes in Hollywood. And there's also reports of so during the filming of Harry Potter, there are several child actors who have come out saying that they were molested on set. Now these are not like Daniel Radcliffe and the what's her name, Hermione Granger. I forget her name at the Emma Watson. No, not the main stars. So it's not the stars of Apt Pupil. It's not the stars of Harry Potter. It is extras, people in the background, people who may have had one or two spoken lines in the film, and crew members or directors or producers would, when the rest of everybody else is focusing on what's being filmed, getting a stage set up and all that sort of thing, when everybody else is focused on the main project of the day, these people in Hollywood would take these kids to the side. These are 12, 13-year-old kids, sometimes 14. That the kids who haven't fully matured or still in the either starting puberty or haven't hit puberty yet, and you've got adults who are in the industry taking them aside on the set, doing things to them, and then telling them that if they tell anybody what happened, they will do it again, or they will kill them, or they will do it to other people who they're their other friends on set. Like, if you don't let me do this, I will do it to one of your friends. This is consistent with pedophiles and what they do. This is not something made up. These sorts of behaviors are consistent with other claims about this. It's no 12-year-old is going to come up with a story and say, "Oh, this is why I didn't say." No, this is how they get away with it. This is how it becomes a secret so long. And Elijah Woods talks about it being an open secret in Hollywood. These sorts of things happen, and they get pushed under the rug. They get buried. They get paid off. I'm trying to think of the name that he used, because there was a huge. So I forget the name of the guy, but it was basically the Jay Leno in Europe, in the UK. Their version of Jay Leno was caught in this big pedophilia incident. This headline news. I just cannot remember the name. I'm trying to look it up, but the internet is being stupid right now. Yeah, Elijah Wood's a big name actor. Corey Feldman was a big name actor, and then kind of fell off. And he's been talking about this for years. He's done several interviews talking about this. This is rampant. And one of the new stories that's coming out, I can't find the name. One of the new stories coming out is about Bryan Singer right now. And so that's the other stupid thing is okay, so accusations were made about Kevin Spacey. What has been done to Kevin Spacey? Nothing. No, Kevin Spacey, like, there's legitimate multiple claims against Kevin Spacey. And when it was addressed with it, when when the proof was undeniable, what did he do? He said, "I'm coming out as a gay man, and I choose to live the rest of my life as a gay man." Not a gay man who sexually assaulted a minor. Oh, no, just a gay man. He's hiding behind the LGBT community. And you don't think that's a problem. It's like, people who are defending this, you don't see that this is an issue. That the LGBT paved the way for people like this to, like, hey, these are the people you're protecting. You cannot keep your same message and vilify those types of people, because those are the types of people. Everything that you've been that group has been advocating for decades, it can be applied to pedophiles. This is the problem with encouraging sexual deviancy, because pedophilia is a sexual deviation. Homosexuality is a sexual deviation, and I'm using deviation not as a pejorative, although that everybody, all this stupid like conundrum. I don't care what your opinion is. I sent you the link. That's what that YouTube link is right there. That is the link to this stream. Like, unless there's some other, let's see. It says the share, right? That's not a link to the YouTube video. It shouldn't be. It should be a link to help come join me in the stream. All right, maybe that's not. Hang on a second. Dude, this is not what I'm supposed to be talking about right now. Well, that's the only thing it lets me share. That shouldn't be the YouTube video. Although it looks like that's what it is. It's linked to the video and not to the chat. Alright, give me a second here. That's what I sent people last week, and they were able to click on that and join me. I am not certain at the moment. Yeah, Jimmy Savile. That's the UK guy. He's basically the UK's version of Jay Leno. Is around, like, this is, I'm not sure 80s or 90s time frame. Again, this is UK story. It didn't really get all that circulated all that much in the United States, but it was a huge scandal. Rampant pedophilia with like their version of Johnny Carson and Jay Leno. Yeah. Okay. So the conundrum does say the UK version of Dick Clark. I don't know the actual era. I just know he was a big deal, and this was huge. But Elijah Woods was saying that incident is going on constantly in example of it. So this is something that. So this is where I go into speculation territory. Drew Barrymore said she started doing cocaine at the age of 9 and was introduced into rehab at the age of 13. Now, it could just be wild parties and introduction to drugs, but that's not something a normal, psychologically stable person gets involved in. That is a sign that there is trauma behind the scenes. Whether it's abandonment issues, whether it's some kind of neglect, I don't know. But my mind leads me to think that there's some kind of abuse that Drew Barrymore went through when she was younger, and it scarred her for a good portion of her teens. And thankfully, she was able to come out of that. I still think she's a pretty mediocre or terrible actress in a lot of movies. There's a couple movies where she shines. I'm like, oh wow, she's actually really good in that. But she's most of the time not very good actress. But I'm glad that her life isn't in ruin and she's not some homeless drug addict and crippled with diseases and all sorts of things. But my mind is telling me something happened that she hasn't come on record saying. She's gone on record talking about her drug problems and that sort of thing. But no child star, like what? Let's see, like Fred Savage, Ben Savage, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Ryan Gosling, child actors, right? None of them, to the best of my knowledge, had a issue with drugs. Nobody had an addiction. Nobody had, yeah. Oh, Amanda Bynes. No, Nickelodeon, dude. Nickelodeon has pedophiles, like registered sex offenders, hired by Nickelodeon to work on children's program. Nickelodeon hires registered sex offenders to work on their kids show. Yeah, Amanda Bynes, a Nickelodeon star, got huge drug problem. You know what that tells me? That tells me sexual abuse or abuse of some kind. Something psychologically damaging that caused her to develop an addiction. Yeah. I sent you the link in the chat there. That's supposed to be the link to this video. I am not sure if it's taking me to the main YouTube as opposed to the Hangout. I don't see any other option. That's the option to share. That's the same link I sent people last week. I am not really familiar with the camera mode of takes you to the video. Alright, let me see here. That's the only link I have. Can I not invite people? No, I was able to invite people last week. Give me a second here. It just takes you back to the video. Let's see. Yep, that's the link to the video. How do I invite people to join? Where is that option? Anybody who's familiar with the camera mode? Yeah, I only see so there's chat options. There's in-stream, there's a microphone, there's share, that's what I've been sending everybody, but apparently that's not the actual stream. Anybody who's ever done this before, anybody know how YouTube, because apparently they... I know I invited people last week. Crap. Loud ringing from my end. Hopefully that's not... I don't know if it's picking up my laptop fan. Anybody who's ever done this, do they... I don't have a Hangout. I went to the camera mode on YouTube to start this. There is no Hangout. This is it. I guess maybe this is the link? There is no Hangout link on my end. That's what I'm telling you. I see there's a live little icon up in the corner. There's the timer. There's a participant. There's a thumbs up. There's the chat options. That's it. There is no link to the Hangout stream. I wish OBS wasn't being completely unworkable at the moment, because that worked so much better. How do I invite people to this? Oh, that's not what I wanted. When it was OBS, I could just do a regular Hangout, and it would work just fine. Why is there is no option for me to send, like, the link that I'm sending is apparently the only link that's available here. Alright, what do we get? So I went to camera. Now, the only share option is for the stupid video. Mm, things that are supposed to make this easier. Where is my option to invite people? It doesn't exist. Setting up a new stream doesn't help me because then it ends this stream and it moves it somewhere else. Oh, it's very, very frustrating. I'm trying to invite people to this stream, not some new one. Because then you have the disjointed, like, okay, why are they talking about this subject? What does it have to do with? All right. Well, apparently I need to end this, so I'm going to end it and start a new one. So, and we'll continue on a different stream here.